There are some projects that I think are ideal for people that are starting out in their photography, be it a hobby, you just want to learn it, or you think it's going to be a career for you. These are the assignments that I give my beginning students in the photography classes I teach. And the reason why I give these particular assignments is because I think it introduces you to concepts that are unique to photography. I think it introduces people into the fun of photography, and if it's not something that they enjoy, if you're burdened down by learning numbers of f-stops and shutter speeds, or thinking purely in composition type terms, using the elements of art and principles of design, I don't think that's a really fun way to get into photography. When you enjoy a process, you're much more willing to put up with learning technical stuff. So let's dive right in. The first assignment that I gave my last group of high school students is the Minimalist Portrait, which is aping the work of Richard Avedon, specifically his very stark portraits that are black and white and have a pure white background. Richard Avedon, one of his famous quotes is he's representing the thing itself. And I think by removing the background, making sure it's just pure white, and focusing on expression and interaction with a person, you really get to the core of what makes a good portrait. Too many times, people overcomplicate things. They think of crazy backgrounds, they think of weird lighting, they think of special effects in the computer. We are just focusing on the interaction between the photographer, a subject, and nothing in the background to distract them. When we did these assignments in the school I taught at, we had a studio space with lights and white backdrop. That's really unnecessary. If you take a look at behind the scenes of some of Richard Avedon's portraits, like his American West series, he is shooting in open shade, which is just the back of a house in the shady area, back of anywhere that has a pure white background wall. Not too hard to find some place that has nothing to it. Even if it's just a little bit of concrete texture, that's fine, but we don't want to confuse the composition with anything in the background. And we're just going for an expression, meaning we have to interact with our subject. And that's something a lot of people are afraid to do when they're taking photographs. They'll pick up the camera and not say anything to somebody, or they don't know what to ask for, so they simply ask the person to smile, and then you end up with, the cheesy vacation photos we're all familiar with. Richard Avedon would have deep conversations with people, but he always said something that made the subject think or react, and that's why you get pictures where Marilyn Monroe is looking very thoughtful and pensive. The second assignment that I give people involves capturing time, and of course this ties in with shutter speed. Capturing time means we're going to be working with slower shutter speeds rather than fast shutter speeds, because that usually involves flashes and we don't want to overcomplicate things. Again, we're doing beginning photography lessons, but we can work at slower shutter speeds. This helps you not only learn how to set your shutter speed manually by going slower than 1/30th of a second to get some sort of blur or motion involved. But it also involves learning how to set your aperture, because when you adjust one thing, you have to adjust other things on your camera. So students tie together that a slower shutter speed, letting more light in over a longer period of time, directly relates to how big that aperture, that hole is on the camera lens, and that they need to close that down to let less light in. So longer period of time, more light, smaller hole, less light. I also like to teach this slow shutter speed activity pretty early in the lessons, because I want people to get used to the idea that photos don't need to be 100% sharp to be quality. There's plenty you can do with blurred motion. It could be panning, some sort of sports event, and getting somebody actually showing some energy with their runs. It could be a special effect in itself, like Ralph Eugene Meatyard's photos, where his child or his son would wave his arms around, and because of the slow shutter speed, they'd be blurry and they'd look like they don't even exist. The next assignment, also special effects related, but classic special effects, not anything that has to do with computer trickery. These are shadows and reflections. And the cheapest special effects of all time involve shadows and reflections. You can easily go back to any number of old noir movies and see some really cool stuff done with shadows or reflections. Orson Welles, as a director, is the master of that. Frequently worked with Greg Toland, the cinematographer, who also made great use of shadows and reflections. This also ties in with how much light you let into your camera, so you're learning aperture and shutter speed by virtue of stopping down, so you can expose for the shadow areas rather than the highlights. This assignment is one that the kids really despised because it involved them getting out into a community and trying to see or do something that wasn't in their regular comfort zone. It is cultural color, and it is based on the work of National Geographic. This is where we look for something outside of mainstream American culture could be an ethnic group, could be another nationality, could be a subculture like rave or punk, two subcultures that I like to shoot in myself. And it just involves capturing the fashion, the food, the color schemes, the diversity within these subcultures. It was the first assignment we had in the school program that focused on color, and I wanted to make sure it was something where color was relevant to telling the story. And again, not one of the things that the kids enjoyed doing because it meant they had to get out of their comfort zones. But I think they all appreciated that colors were something they were looking for, even if it was just like a mix in a restaurant of a tablecloth and some food items. But a lot of the lessons in life are painful ones, and this is a great assignment if you are looking for a subject matter where the color is a relevant component of the imagery and the storytelling. The last of my big introductory assignments is the Life magazine formula. This has to do with a photo essay where you're trying to tell a compelling story through a series of images, a sequence of images. A lot of people who begin in art don't think of art as sequential. Maybe they think of comic strips and comic books that way, but most of the time they think of one-off things like one painting or a series of paintings, but that takes several months to create. With photography, you can create a whole storyline through imagery, but we want to have different kinds of shots, and we want to make sure that we have specific kinds of shots because that helps tell a story, much like a regular essay has its introductory paragraph and its closing statement and its supporting paragraphs. So the Life magazine formula involved an introductory photo, a medium shot, a close-up, a portrait, a signature or summary of the story, a sequential series of images, such as how to do something or a before and after, and then a powerful end to the story, a clincher photograph that's going to be very memorable. When I gave this assignment to the kids, because we're talking about Life magazine, I titled it My Life in Photos, meaning I wanted them to explain their own personal lives. I didn't want these high schoolers to think that they needed to pick a subject that would be really difficult to accomplish. I just wanted to get to know them. So this is one of the earlier assignments. And we made adjustments, like the portrait didn't have to be a picture of them. It could be a portrait of their parents or their best friend or their pet. Now, this is a good assignment for a beginning artist, beginning photographer, because many people don't know what kind of subjects they enjoy photographing, but most people like to explain themselves a little bit. They like to tell something about their life. And I wanted to make sure that I was getting to know the kids because a lot of them had access to things that I didn't even think of, like horses or strange cars or cool locations or good subjects in their friends. And this was an opportunity to get to know the kids better, see what was part of their daily lives, and also, the most important thing, make photography part of their daily life, not just a creative outlet that they do only when they're on vacation or only when they have assignments. Picture taking is so integral to what we do, what memories we have, what we share on social media, how we present ourselves to the world. And ideally, it would be something that nobody fears, but rather they enjoy and it feeds their creative soul. So there you have it, my beginning photo lessons. Feel free to adapt these to your own classes, be they college, high school, or your own personal life. Best of luck in your creative endeavors. Talk to you next time.